Welcome to Metaphysical Hippie Chicks 2.0. I'm Susanna Masseri, psychic medium and author of Living Beyond Death. My co-hosts are psychic medium Annalisa Bastiani and ET experiencer Terry Scalia. We focus on grounded, honest conversations about consciousness, mediumship, channeling, ETs, psychology, and modern spiritual culture. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, everyone. Our guest today is Nicole D'Andrea, medium, massage therapist, Reiki Master, Reconnective Healing Practitioner, and the voice behind Confessions of a Spirit Messenger. Through her work, she shares messages from her people in spirit, whom she calls the messengers, offering insight, comfort, and guidance to those seeking a deeper connection with the spiritual world. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So Nicole and I met back in 2016 as we were training to be end-of-life doulas. How did that filter into what you were experiencing, what you were drawn to, and anything else that pertained to your spiritual development after leaving a career in advertising and public relations in Boston?
Sure. I think any normal person would ask why I was there. What were you doing there? And I knew that the training had to do with preparing people who had the grace of knowing that they were about to leave this world and go to the next one. Because as a child, I was in a situation very young, I was 8 years old, where my grandmother had been dying of cancer and in the home, with all of us caring for her. But I was completely helpless at the time. So when the training came up, something about it just called to me. It was like, this is going to almost like close a loop for you. You're going to see some things that you needed to understand as a kid, but no one could have explained to you anyway. And because my grandmother was the first spirit person that ever popped up and decided to say, hey, I knew that I needed to do this. And yeah, so being on both sides of the process made sense to me. So decided to give it a try. And that's how I met you. So it was fated.
I know. It's another lifelong friendship for me.
10 years.
Yeah. So what happened being in the corporate world and being in Boston and you end up in Florida? I'm curious as to how that led to you being a minister in Boston.
A lot of it is not very... You couldn't have plotted it on a map if you were like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And no, life took me places. The first thing that happened, I was in Massachusetts and I was doing the corporate thing. I met the man who would be my husband. We moved to Texas. This was my big grown-up moment to be away from everything I knew. And I got there. I had a corporate job lined up and we got married. And 6 months into living in Texas, I lost everything. I lost my job. They merged with another company and cut my entire company. Like they cut my whole department. Everyone was scrambling, looking for jobs. So it's not like what was available. I could just be like, oh, good, there's an opening over here. Yeah, there was like 50 people looking for the same job. So I had to transition into massage therapy because that I had, and I didn't even remember doing this, but I had written in a journal like years before that I wanted to do that. So I was like, okay, I'm in a new place. I don't know anybody. I have some like bridal shower money or something that I had stashed. And I'm like, I'm going to go be a massage therapist. I might as well do something different. And once that happened, everything started to open for me. Things that I had put aside that were gifts that I had denied were gifts. Even seeing my grandmother, I was like, no, that didn't, well, it happened, but it won't ever happen again. Or people were negating what I was telling them because I was that kid. I was like, hey, why can't I have coffee? I used to have coffee when I was big all the time. And why can't I have it now? And they were like, what do you mean you were big? And I was like, what do you mean? How do you know? You didn't know I was big? I used to be big. I used to have coffee. And I was trying to explain this, like everyone was supposed to know. And they were like, yeah, Nicole, you were a baby and now you're like 4. So I had to keep denying things. The one grace that I had is that my mother believed me when I told her I saw my grandmother. And other little things were happening that nobody could deny. Like I came home and on my bureau where my grandmother's picture was, all of my very meticulously and attentively placed figurines that I had would all be turned to face the picture. And I was like, who is in thy room? Somebody messed with my stuff. And my mom was like, no, Nicole, look, they're all facing grandma's picture. And I was like, yeah, you can't acknowledge that, because if you do, then I have to acknowledge it. And then the conversation opens and people reject me every time. And I was so sensitive. I was always sensitive. I was the kid that cried all the time when something happened. So all that got pushed aside, but now here I am in adulthood. I'm away from everything. So nobody that ever told me I was wrong about those things was around. I was in a new place. I was doing new things, and this just crept right in. And I'm in the room doing Reiki because a friend of mine had attuned me. And suddenly stuff is happening that I can't explain. And I had, in years past, this is a sidebar that's going to connect back to this. Because I'm telling you, you couldn't have plotted this. It's insane. When I was in college, because I was away from home for a while, I did start opening up a little bit. And back in the day, one house TVs were a thing. You only had one TV in the whole house that was connected to cable. And there was a program on. Do you guys know? Oh my God, I'm going to forget his name. I can't think of his first name. Anderson. That was
George?
Yes, George.
George Anderson. Yeah.
I had read a book that was all about him. And he was going to be on one of these TV magazine programs. And I was like, well, I got to see this because I read that book. And it was the only place I'd ever found where somebody was talking about speaking to someone once they passed. So I went in the room. I was like, Mom, can I watch this program tonight? I was like, I don't know, 18, 19. And she's like, well, what is it? I told her to watch it. Well, here's the thing. I didn't know that she was that on board with it until years passed and I came home from college. And suddenly she was watching John Edward crossing over on her own. And I was like, something's cooking here. So she says to me, Nicole, I want to do this thing. Do you want to come? And I was like, what are you talking about? I was watching John Edward and I was like, why? And how did this happen? And she's like, there was a commercial on in Brookline, Massachusetts at the Holiday Inn. There's going to be 3 mediums there on a platform and they're going to do the whole audience and me and your aunt and we're all going to go. Do you want to come? And I was like, I think my head's going to explode right now. Yeah, I do. I want to go. So just like with the band, when you have openers, they're not as good as the headliner, right? So the first person was a little wishy-washy, and I was like, man, I thought this was going to be better. I'm kind of disappointed. The second person was a little bit better, but then here came my mentor, who would end up being my mentor years later, Jackie. And she walks out on the stage and she says, I have a date that I need to bring out. And she says the date. And me and my family just turned white. Now, everybody in the crowd, you guys all know, they're all like, oh, it's me, it's me, it's me. Everyone wants to be picked. I was terrified. It's like, this can't be real. This is going to make me have to face this. And so the person's like, this is a birthday, this is this is a, she's like, no, this is a death anniversary. And I was like, that's us. So, of course, my mother shoots up out of the chair. By the end of this little program, my mom's very aggressive. She's a small Italian woman, but she's terrifying. She's running across the lobby to tackle this woman because she wants her to come to the house. And I'm like, oh my God. How is this happening right now? Well, she comes to the house, she does the reading. Even my grandmother, who's from Italy and super religious, and I didn't think was into this, had come. And after that experience, I was unsettled, but I still wasn't ready to be like, let me just, jump right in and be like, oh, I do this thing. So years pass. And I'm still quiet. But now I'm in Texas and I'm a massage therapist and I'm a Reiki master. And I'm like, I don't know how I became one of these people. This is exactly not who I was ever. My mom says, oh, I'm going to do a reading with her. Do you want to be on the phone with us? Do you want to listen in? I was like, yeah, why not? Sure. So I listen in. And at some point while they had, I was muted so that they could talk, I was like, hey, I unmuted myself and I was like, hey, can I ask a question? And they're like, oh my God, we forgot you were there. And I said, yeah, I got to ask you this question about my grandfather. And somewhere in there, here's Jackie. She's like, hold on a second. And I'm like, oh God. She goes, you do what I do, right? I'm like, no, I don't do that.
No.
She goes, yeah, you do. And I was like, no, I don't do that. She goes, Nicole, you've been doing this since you were a little kid. I said, oh no, that was my imagination. And I was like, you idiot. Why did you even say that? That's how that person, I had to be found. I was never going to come to the table with that. So now I'm in this point in my life where she knows Like that little meme everyone does. She knows. She knows. I'm like, yeah, she knows. So she's like, we're going to start talking about this stuff. I'm going to talk to you. And the first thing she said to me was, you're not talking to yourself. And I was like, how does she know that I'm not talking to how does she know that I couldn't believe any of this. And she's like, I'm going to have you do this thing. I could not believe she asked me to do this. I think I told you the story. So she goes, I'm going to have you call my friend. This is cold, completely out of nowhere. She goes, I'm going to have you call my friend. You're going to give her a reading. I go, how am I going to do that? I don't do that. She's like, listen to me. I'm like, I really needed this. Thank you, for smacking me around. She goes, I'm going to call my friend. I'm going to have her. I'm going to let her know you're going to call her. She's not going to be mean to you. She's not going to, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Just tell her what comes to you. And I was like, I don't know what you think's going to happen. I'm going to talk to this lady and you're going to sit there like an idiot. She's like, no, you won't. Watch what happens. This happens to you all the time and you don't know that's what it is. And I'm like, okay. So I'm cleaning my house. I don't know if you guys do this before a reading. Something about cleaning your space makes me feel more grounded. And this is normal for me, yet I don't know what it is. This lady pops into my head and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is what happens to me all the time. But Jackie says it's a thing. I'm like, all right, it's a thing. So I'm letting her show me what she looks like. I'm getting a little bit of information and I'm like, okay, whatever. So I get on the phone and I'm like, okay, so there's a woman here. And I start telling her what this woman looks like. I'm like, okay, she's white hair and she's Irish. She's from Ireland. And she's like, yep. And I'm like, hold on a second. What do you mean? Yeah. She's like, yeah. I'm like, and it looks like she would be like your grandmother. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, no, you're telling me that for the first 30 years of my life, when this was happening to me all the time, this was what this was. And I just thought I was thinking things or whatever. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was communication. So now I'm going through this process and she's like, yep. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What have I been doing? And then I get off the phone with her. And this was like Facebook in its infancy. This was like 2008 or 9. So it really wasn't a lot on there, but I did see a picture of her grandmother on there. And I was like, oh my God, that's the lady. And I was like, but she looks so much better now. And I realized I had nobody to tell this to. I'm like, I couldn't say anything about it. I was excited and I couldn't say anything because people would think I was nuts. She's the person who ended up being my teacher. And she's the person who made me prove to myself and didn't have to convince me because she made me do it. So now here I am in Texas and stuff's really happening. And I'm like, oh my God, people are coming to me during sessions and they're popping up in the room. And she's like, I told her, I'm like, this lady came to the room. She was supposed to be, this is why I know it's real, like lined up beyond my control. We're supposed to be a massage for a couple and we only had 2 couples rooms. Somehow they overbooked it. That's impossible. There's only 2 squares you can click. How did you couldn't have done that. Well, this woman ended up by herself and I ended up being her person for the session. So we go in the back room. She tells me she's tired. She's going to fall asleep. She doesn't want to talk like we all normally do. Cause this was one of those couples when they come in, everyone's excited. They were like, yeah, I'm going to party in the couples room. So she starts talking to me and I'm like, and this is what happens. So, okay, keep talking. Now, as she's talking to me, I'm just doing what I do, which is like I really tune into my person and I try to really hard to work out the things they've asked me to work on. But it opens up a part of me that lets other things in because it's very intuitive work. In the corner of the room, as she's talking about her grandmother, I'm like, oh, Lord. She says, oh, I wish I had met my grandmother. My mom said she was a very amazing person. And I'm like, oh, really? And I look in the room and I see literally physically a little cloud-like formation happening in the corner of the little dimly lit room. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, I didn't think about it. I just started doing it. And I was like, hey, was your grandmother really short? She was like, well, she was Chinese, so probably. And I said, was her name Pearl? In a split second, I saw a book that I was reading that day and it zoomed in on just the word Pearl. And I was like, was her name Pearl? And she's like, well, it was a Chinese name, so it might have translated. I don't know. And I was like, oh, crap, Nicole, you're doing your weird thing. Don't do it. Stop. I'm like, yeah, I don't know why I said that. Forget it. I said all that. So then I go out, get her water. She comes out of the room and she looks all messed up. And I'm like, oh, no, you did it with your crazy talk. And she goes, I just remembered something. And I was like, what's that? She goes, well, when I was little, they used to call my mom Little Pearl. I was like, well, maybe your grandmom was Big Pearl, maybe. And she's like, I'm going to ask her. Now, we didn't even have a conversation about this. Like, she never said, are you talking to my grandmother? And none of that ever happened. It just happened like seamlessly like that. And I freaked out and I was like, Jackie, you're not going to believe what happened. And she's like, how would I not believe that happened? I literally told you could do this. So that's kind of how that started blowing up. And then when I went back to Massachusetts, it's funny. I went back to corporate or like desk job type stuff, and it ruined my whole vibe.
Oh, man.
That's when I started really figuring out that environment is a big factor for me. I don't know why. For other people, it isn't. They have a different sense. And then I came back to here when I finally moved down here to Florida, which was also another not on the list. Then I started to like open back up again, and I started doing a little bit of healing work. I started doing some readings for people. And that's when I realized that people don't want to be your friend. They just want you to read for them. And then if you tell them something they don't like, then they hate you because they think you made it happen. And I'm like, really? So if I tell you it's raining outside, but you go outside, it's my fault?
Yep.
And yeah, so this part of my life is about managing relationships.
That's called thinning the herd. You just have to know that's not a good person for me.
None of them are good people for me. I'm in a really not healthy environment for my energy. But at the moment, this is where I have to be, and it's where I'm kind of hovering.
That's temporary.
Everything is, right, though?
Yeah, it's temporary.
Florida itself has a very strange energy to it.
Does it?
There's such a deep history here.
Yeah.
Of extreme violence going way back to the 1500s.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's a very strange energy here.
It was very culture shocky for me. I would fly into Fort Myers, but then I'd have to find my way to Port Charlotte each time. And when I was going to school there, and it's just like, this is so different from California. I don't even know how to explain it.
It can be a real culture shock coming here.
Well, from what I understand, it's different where you are and where I am.
It is.
Like vastly.
It is.
I'm in like hedonism on steroids.
Oh my God.
Really?
Everybody here wants to drink every night, party, go watch, a concert, go to theme parks. It's permanent vacation.
Wow.
Permanent vacation is exhausting.
Yeah, it is.
And they're not open to a lot of depth. Like, I'm not even going to attempt to explain the dating pool here, but it's bad. Don't want to go in there.
Yeah.
How did you get into reconnective healing?
That happened in Texas too, actually. So many things exploded in Texas.
Wow.
Well, it is a big state.
It is. Everything's bigger in Texas.
Everything is bigger in Texas.
The barbecue is awesome. You'll never get Mexican food in the United States somewhere else. Like
that is a fact.
I mean, it's
that is
like
a fact.
The breakfast burrito. Anyway, so as I'm working my way through the massage stuff, and I'm getting more guidance. But now this is not just dead people guidance. This is not that. A whole bunch of other stuff started happening. I would be working on someone who would ask me for a deep tissue, but I would go to work on them and my body would go limp. And I'm like, what? Am I having like a sugar shot? What the hell's going on? And I would wait, and then I would try it again, and I would go limp. And I was like, okay, this is not me. So I'm like, what is happening here? They were like, you can't do deep pressure on this person. They won't. It will hurt them. So it was almost like you had a teacher or like a assistant next to you while you're trying to learn your way. And there were other people that they were reacting strange ways on the table. Like they'd come in and I'm like, okay, you're here because you want a massage. Why are you acting like you don't want a massage? There's one lady, she would come in with like a jumpsuit. No, what do you call them? Track suits. Remember when it was popular? So but nothing.
Bluer.
Yeah. So she would and she'd take it off, and I'm like, okay, this is very strange. This is ritualistic. But then she'd have her fist clenched on the table. And I'm like, what is she doing? I'm like, well, they're telling me everything else. Might as well ask. What's going on here? And they said this person has not been touched with respect for a very long time. And that they experienced physical trauma use. So I was like, well, what do I do? I mean, if she's here, she wants to try to do something. They were like, just adjust a little bit. Touch her like you're touching somebody who almost like a baby.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go with it. What the hell's going to happen? Nothing bad's going to happen. So I started doing that. And I noticed her fist started to come out of the fist, like position, and started to relax. And I'm like, okay, there's way more going on here. I'm being used as an instrument to help people. This is a healing mediumship. This isn't the same as just I talk to dead people, which, because of the TV shows at the time, that's what everyone wanted to have when you booked them. But more was happening. So as usual, I was still fighting my guidance a little bit. Like, I go to a bookshelf and they'd be like, oh, read that book. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to read that. That lady's, And they're like, no, this is the book. And I'm like, okay, it's been like 10 times. I'm going to buy the book. I pick up the book, and it's Reconnective Healing. And I'm like, I've seen some of the stuff. Like, YouTube wasn't as big as it is now, but I've seen some interviews and I've read, and I'm like, this is really out there for me. But I had to read it. So I take the book in and I'm reading it now on my breaks. One night, nobody came into this whole clinic. I don't know if you've ever been in these massage clinics. You have like the whole front area that's like a lounge. So everyone's hanging out like it's a club. I was reading the book, and the last thing I remember reading in my little room was, if you're reading this book, you're already picking up on these frequencies. And I'm like, see, this is why I didn't want to read this book, because it's going to blow smoke up my ass and I'm going to be mad. I was still in that place a little bit, because there are a lot of phonies. Sure. So I put the book down. I go out into the lounge, and we're talking. And as usual, Italian Nicole has to talk with every single hand motion, has to be part of this. And I was talking to this guy, and I was like, yeah, put it. And I was like, what? No, something just happened. I felt in my hands something that I did not feel as a norm, even for Reiki. And I'm like, this is something. So I was like, okay. So of course I quietly ran back into the room and I was like, oh my God, yeah. That's not the same thing as I feel as when I do Reiki. Reiki has different sensations. So I'm like, okay, Nicole has no money, but Nicole has some credit cards. So there was a seminar in Providence, Rhode Island. I was scheduled to go back home for a visit to Cape Cod. And it was starting the day after I was leaving. And because my ex-husband, that didn't pan out. He worked for American Airlines. So we had flight benefits. The only reason I agreed to move to Texas, because, being away from everything I know. So I was like, go back home. I'm going to stay for this weekend and I'm going to take this course. I was like, and once again, as you know, I showed up alone, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. This is wild. I'm doing here. And it was being taught by Eric Pearl, who was the guy who wrote the book. And he's a chiropractor who came upon this totally by accident. So what makes it really compelling is that he had no belief in any of this. He actually was anti-woo-woo. He thought, and he was from California, so there's a lot of that out there. It's not like he,
I can vouch.
So he was like, okay, I don't know what the heck's going on, but when he actually was attuned, he calls it a Jewish gypsy lady on Venice Beach, okay, who was reading tarot cards. This is his story. And he says that when he went to this woman for a $10 reading while he was just goofing off for the afternoon with his assistant, she read him and said, I have special work that I want to share with you. And he went through with this, which it ended up being, I think, what's commonly known as like an axiotonal alignment. And this activated something in him where his patients started to heal. And he was like, I don't know what's happening. So when people look for it and they're like in their ego about it, and then they build this empire and they charge you money to do all this stuff, like there's a whole thing there that tells me it's a business. It's not an authentic thing. But his was the complete opposite. And his reaction was, I got to go to the scientific community because this is something. And these people are having legitimate healings. Like scans are coming back with things that were there that are not there. So even with all that, I was still, a little skeptical. But I had this feeling like this was something bigger. So I'm sitting there and he's up there doing his thing and he's sarcastic as anything. He's really actually very entertaining. And it's time to get on the tables. It's this big giant room in a convention center. All the massage tables are all lined up. And of course, it's like kindergarten. When it's time to go play dodgeball, they all run for the balls, right? So everyone's on the table. I couldn't even get out of my seat. I'm like, well, I don't know what the heck's going to happen here because I'm going to have to be the practitioner first and I don't know what I'm doing. And he says there's no technique. My head was just like, blah, 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 blah. So I get over there and he has people walking around, assistants. He's like, okay, you start here. Just put your hands like this and just feel. It's very low pressure. You don't make it anything and you disengage from your whole thought process to step into it. And as I'm feeling it, I'm like, okay, I feel it. And I see the person having what they're kind of reactions, but he calls them registers. What happens is the way that this energy affects your nervous system, you have involuntary muscle movements. And the crazy thing about it is certain muscles, and I know this from being a massage therapist, you probably know this too, certain muscles only move in groups. Like you can't isolate one of your smile muscles and make it move by itself. Like you smile in a group of muscles, but that's one or two or random muscles were just firing. Like when you have a twitch and I'm like, okay. And then the guy walks by me and he's like, oh, wow, very, very good. Okay, good. Oh, this is good. You're doing good. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. This is happening here. So the lady gets off the table and she goes, oh, thank you so much. That was incredible. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I don't know what's happening. And I'm looking around the room and I mean, everybody's having an effect. And none of these people know what they're doing. How are we doing this? So now it's my turn to get on the table. And I'm like, I laid on the table and I almost said out loud as I looked up at the ceiling, well, I hope you're happy because you just flushed blah, blah, blah amount of money down. It's fine. Okay. So I get on the table and I had the most outrageous experience that I have ever had in my entire life, completely out of my control. And I actually couldn't breathe. And he told people, sometimes it's going to feel like you can't, but you are breathing because otherwise you wouldn't be thinking I can't breathe. He's like, but there's this feeling you're going to get. Don't let it scare you. It's a common register. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt my eyes doing this rapid eye movement that I was not in control of. I felt my foot, my finger, everything was just starting to do these things. But the most incredible part of it was I felt my entire body feeling like I was on a luge being propelled forward towards my feet. And I was like, and then I felt like the whole table, you know, when you take off in a plane and it's like, till like you get in the air, that's what it felt like. And I was like, oh my God. But I don't want to open my eyes because if I open my eyes, I'm even more scared to open my eyes. Although with the flutters, there was like a light right over my eyes. And I'm like, you know, still in my head, rationalizing it. No, there must be a light on the ceiling. I must be underneath a light, everything. And then I heard someone walk by and go, wow, that's really wild. And I was like, what is he looking at? What's going on? And being in that state, you couldn't stop it. It was just happening to you. All of a sudden, I hear him say, okay, it's time for, to stop and we're going to take a break. By the time I opened my eyes, the dude that was working on me was long gone, And as a massage therapist, you don't do that. You don't just be like, leave the person on table abandoned. Right. So I couldn't even ask him what he saw, what he did. I went into the bathroom stall by myself and with my clothes on. I didn't take anything off. I wasn't doing my business. I just needed a place to be where no one could see me going, what just happened? Something just happened. And I didn't believe it. Still, I'm really bad. I mean, once I tell you something, you have to know I've already been through what you're going to ask me and 10 or 12 more things before I believed it. So you can actually trust me. But I went back out there and he tried to explain some more of it to us, but how do you explain that which has no explanation? It's a frequency. So as we're doing this, he says, I need to ask the audience a question. I want you all to be really honest with me because everyone had their turn getting one, maybe 15, 20-minute session. How many of you have injuries that have healed over this past day and a half? Because it was like the 3-day weekend. And a lot of people started raising their hands. And he goes, okay, and now I'm going to ask you a follow-up to that. He goes, how many of you have had injuries that are more than 10 years old that have healed or you've had an effect? Now, I hadn't thought about this, but I had back surgery when I was 23 years old.
Oh my God.
I had a slip disc and my back was very unstable no matter what I did. And no exercise didn't result in some kind of injury because my disc slipped out to the side and it was hanging out of my spine like a pancake. So they cut off what was sticking out. They didn't put anything else in there. They weren't doing like cement or the rest of that stuff yet. There must have been enough that they were comfortable and I was young enough that I was going to be okay. But I could move the wrong way in a week. I'd be done for a week. Like I'd have to limp for a week until it decided to, fix itself or unspasm. And I remember I sat while we were doing distance healing. That's when my healing happened. We were instructed to move further and further and further away from the person on the table. As I was doing that and feeling the frequencies, I felt under my feet what I felt on the table. And I was like, what is that? We're in a convention center. Maybe there's something else going on. Is there a motor under the floor? What is happening? So like the floor feels like this to me. And I look around and no one's reacting to anything. And I'm like, okay. Now, because he told us, you want to really use your body. You don't just kind of stand there and go like this. I kind of squatted in a little bit, doing the thing. All of a sudden, I felt something go up my back like a zipper. And it was like, broop. I panicked because that usually means you're not going to be able to walk now. Or you're not going to be able to sit down. And I'm like, uh-oh. I don't know what happened, but something happened. And I very carefully went back to my seat after that. And it seemed like I was okay. Now, remember, I was in Rhode Island by myself, too. Who was I going to call if I got stuck and couldn't get out of bed? So I just tried to calm myself down. And once he recalled, he started asking that question, I realized that I had had my back surgery. And it was more than 10 years old or about 10 years old. And that since that happened, I hadn't felt any twinges, not just the fact that it didn't spasm, but the fact that it actually felt very stable. And I was like, oh my God, I think I had a healing. And then, the first thing when something like that happens is you're terrified to say it out loud because you're afraid you're going to jinx it or you think it wasn't real. But ever since that day, I never had that instability in my back again.
Wow.
So I came back from the seminar ready to share this. My Reiki teacher was pissed at me. That's the first thing I did was I told my Reiki teacher, she's like, well, I don't care for him. I've read some of his stuff and I don't care for him. And I'm like, I know why you don't care for him is because, like I told you, he's very entertaining. He got up there and he was like, I hope all of you that do all these different kinds of healings are ready to let them all go because they're just training wheels. To which she took complete offense. Now, if you listen to the next part of it, you don't get offended because he explains why he's calling them that. If you have a glass, okay, or a can, and the can is this much full, and I have the same one, but mine is this much full. We both have this much. Yes. The frequencies, when he didn't understand them, he had tested at Arizona State with Gary, can't think of his
Schwartz.
name. Yes. The experiments and the clinical trials that they did showed a whole bunch of different people doing different modalities. Every single one of them had an effect. The frequency that was measured in those different modalities were all contained in Reconnective Healing. They were part of it already, but Reconnective Healing pushed it up further. So it wasn't a pissing contest, but I guess when your ego identity is around a specific modality, and someone comes around and says, you get mad. She stopped talking to me.
Oh, man.
And I was like, well.
You were just done. You were done.
Wow.
What am I going to do? You give someone a reading and you tell them something and they're mad. Now they're not your friend. And she got really mad. And I'll tell you what really pushed it over the edge is as I started to work on my clients with that instead of with Reiki and just say, look, I don't know if you guys are into this. It's very not as well known, but just want to give it a try. Are you open to it? If you say yes, then I do it. I started to have these other kinds of experiences where I would see color, where I used to see it with Reiki with my eyes closed. I was seeing it with my eyes open. And I'm like, okay, this did something. This did something else besides help my back. And I started to ask her some questions because that's what you do. It's a teacher. And she's like, well, if you're doing that and I'm the teacher and you're the student, why are you doing it and I'm not? And I was like, so
Ego.
number one, I didn't know that you didn't do that because I assumed that I was
Okay.
moving into your space, but now I know that you're mad because.
Wow.
So I just, and you know what? I'm like a baby doe in the woods. Like, I don't think to myself, hey, you're about to piss somebody off before I say something. I just go in there and I'm like, so listen, I saw this thing and I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is? And they look at me like, yeah, I'm going to have to squish you. You're going to need to be stamped out.
Mm.
I did not try to one-up her. I wasn't trying. And I think she thought that I didn't think Reiki was valuable enough, so I needed to do something else. And that wasn't the case either. I was guided and I follow my guidance. And I took that in 2008. So it's 2026. It's a long time that I've had that. The thing with the reconnective healing frequency is, and Eric said this in the class, he said, you never have to worry about coming back for more levels. That was another one of his beefs with all of these other systems. It's like, oh, now it's like this, now it's quantum, now it's that. And you constantly have to keep going back. He's like, you don't have to come back with this. He said, what happens is once everyone is entrained with this frequency, if for some reason more of it comes to the earth, because this was like it's not meant to be for one person, it's meant to be for all of us. Everyone will get it at the same time. It's like when you daisy chain a bunch of lights or something like that. Like you click it and everyone lights up the next level. So I thought to myself, this is a pretty bad business model, but it's still pretty cool. It's still cool. Right? And that's kind of how that went. Now, reconnective healing happens on a level that you can't predict because you don't direct it. So like if you come to me and your arm hurts, I'm not supposed to even know your arm hurts. And if I do know that, it'll actually mess with me because then I will think to myself, let me put my hands over her arm and try to heal her arm. Mm-hmm. The whole principle behind it is that we come from oneness. And when we recognize this frequency, because really it's there, you just have to go, oh, and interact with it. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to do anything. You just have to step into it. And that's the process. And to a lot of people, to hand over a couple $100, that's not good enough as a delivery of what you're paying for. So, yeah.
Make it a little more theatrical and you'll get so much more money.
But that's the other thing. And then
but that's not it.
I had a bunch of people I had a group of people that were like a little psychic meetup group. And some of them came sniffing around just to have a session to see what it was and how it compared to theirs. Like they couldn't even be curious and open and celebrate it with me. They had to be that way. And that's when I started realizing like a lot of people see me as very naive, but what they're not understanding about what they're seeing is that it's not me being naive. I have a very childlike, innocent quality to the way that I show up in the world. And to other people, that looks like naivety. That looks like weakness. Makes me dumb. It doesn't make me dumb. I probably know more than you think I do, but I'm going to let you think that so that I can see who you are. So keep going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've had to manage. It's not easy. When I met Sue, she was one of the first people that I met in a really long time. Because like I said, Salem is, technically I'm a minister for a Salem church. Salem has a whole bunch of drama too. And
in Salem, Massachusetts?
Oh yeah.
I love Salem. That was a fun time for me.
Oh yeah. It was. And it is. But it's changed a lot. But
has it?
Like every group I've been in, there have been authentic people, but a lot of the authentic people, they still human. So they bring But in Florida, I found just a bunch of people who were like kindergarten level of spirituality trying to convince me that they needed to teach me what they knew. And I was like, oh, I got to get the hell out of here. Mm-hmm. Then when I met Sue, I was like, she was the only person. First of all, she's humble. She doesn't come at you like, look at how great I am. Mm-hmm. And that's a selling point for me. But she has a very soft, gentle energy that it's not that it asks permission to enter your field when you do like work with her. But it's like she's just so respectful, and she's respectful of the other worlds. And the way that she does her work is with the same kind of quality that I feel like I have in terms of that innocence. Like, I don't know what this is. Show me what this is. And I don't see that in other people. I don't see that in like people that are supposed to be big, renowned, world-renowned people. They walk in so cocky. They want to tell you who you are. And I can't be in that energy. So the people that I find that are like that, they're like precious jewels to me that I can't let go of. I can't. That's like, you're going to stay over here and whatever happens, you're with me, right? Because I can't be without someone who has that quality anymore. I've been alienated and isolated, as I told you guys, like from different teachers and stuff like that, that it's hard. And then when I had a reading with Sue a long time ago, I think it was after I met you and we did a first reading, and she was able to see things much further out than anyone else that I had had a reading from. Things that I didn't talk about, things that I never mentioned. But she was like, oh, so you have this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh my God. It had been like 20 years since I had to fess up that something was real. And I was like, shit, she said it.
She just nailed it.
So I was like, okay. And that's how I knew she was a keeper.
Oh, that's so sweet.
But it's true. Like I don't
true. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I think we agree on this. This is one of the big points that we agree on. It's not a competition.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely not
Right.
a competition.
Right.
We have this ability. We were born with this ability, and I give what I get. If you don't want to listen to it, that's fine. If you get angry about it, that's fine. Maybe that's something you need to look at and process a little bit. But I'm not in competition with anyone. You're not in competition with anyone, and neither are you, Annalisa or Terry.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we do, and I work by word of mouth.
Me too.
And people come that, I kind of feel that they are the ones that need to hear what I have to say. Mm-hmm. And it's not what I have to say, it's what people in spirit has to say, whether it's a deceased loved one or it's higher beings that we call ETs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or guides or anything like that. It's not my information. I'm just that person that delivers it.
A messenger.
I'm a telephone.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm an iPhone, sometimes I'm a flip phone. It just depends. Depends on what you like or what you need to, all cream is good, but I don't like all flavors.
Yeah, it's never about who I am or, and all three of you are like that too. It's not who we are. It's not our ego getting in the way. You have to get yourself out of the way. In every aspect, you have to step aside and get out of the way and allow this information to come through.
And that's not easy because we're still going to have our own filters. Mm-hmm. We're still going to have our own beliefs and our own, set in certain ways that hopefully we're open enough to look and go, maybe that wasn't the best way to go about it. But it's still, a friend of mine gave me, and she's not a psychic, but she gave me this great analogy about coffee filters. If the coffee filter is dirty, the reading, the coffee is going to have the remnants of whatever that was already in there.
Yeah.
But if you clean out the coffee filter, you're going to have a brand new fresh cup of coffee. And that, for some reason, that stuck with me for years. I was like, that's brilliant because of our personalities, of our experiences. We are going to bring forth stuff that we've held on to, for better or for worse, in readings. So it's really important that we know that in order to kind of make sure it doesn't bleed into too much of how we read.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm always self-checking.
Ditto.
Always.
Yeah. Nicole, I have a question. Are you able to do this reconnective healing virtually, like distance wise?
Yep. The way that the research came back is that it actually grows in strength with distance, which every other modality is the opposite of.
That's fantastic.
So the fact that I had my healing while I was moving further away from the person I was interacting with, it's what blew my mind. But the catchphrase that he was using at the time, and that's still true, it's like when you don't actually heal the person, you're receptive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the book itself says the reconnection, heal others, heal yourself, or heal yourself, heal others. You're part of the equation. So by virtue of the fact that I was stepping into that frequency and working with someone else, I was also receiving.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to, and I wasn't focused on it. And see, this is where it gets muddy. And this is why I'm always a little hesitant to talk about reconnective healing, because it flies in the face of a lot of other principles and beliefs that other systems carry. Intent is a big buzzword in the metaphysical world. And it does have a place, but it doesn't have a place in this. And you're very conditioned to being the person who's the sender or focusing in intention. It will mess with your results because it'll interfere. In the book, he talked about when he was unsure of what he was doing, going to the woo-woo community and saying, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe you guys do. You all know about this stuff. I don't. Person was on the table and he watched everyone do whatever. I don't know what modality it was now, but it was like some kind of Reiki or something like that. And they were working on the person. Now he was like, well, can I show you guys what's happening? And maybe you can explain to me what it is. Like me, I don't know what's going on. He started to do it and they all started to watch the registers. And they were like, oh my God, this is crazy. And he kept doing it and he was just in it. But then all of a sudden he noticed they started to diminish. Things started to stop. And he's like, what's going on? This is not, hey, hello, what's going on? And then he looked around the room and people started to try to help him with their modality.
Oh.
And that interfered with the frequency.
Wow.
I mean, I guess I would equate it to having two different channels on at the same time. You don't hear any of the programming now you don't hear that. So that part of it is difficult for some people that are really like seasoned in other kinds of systems to get over, to step into that. But once you realize that you're not losing anything, a lot of people think that, oh, I trained for years doing these things. You're not losing any of that. That got you where you are now. Maybe you wouldn't even have considered this. You're going to have that plus some. You don't want that. You don't want that for the people that are coming to you who need help or want to try something. And the changes that you see are not always physical. A lot of what people go through are very life-oriented changes. I've had people come to me their lives are a wreck, and not being judgmental. Their lives are just a wreck. It's an observation. Job, money, spouse leaving them, kids don't talk to them. Like they're in it and they're like, help me, Nicole. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know how to stop it. And I just lay on the table. I don't know what's going to happen, but you and me together are just going to be in this space for a little while. Just trust. And if you feel something, let yourself feel it. Don't stop yourself from feeling it. If your finger starts going like this, don't you start stiffening up. Let it go. And they're so broke, and I hate to say this way, but it's true. They're so broken, they don't have any resistance left. And sometimes that's where these things have to come in. So you have to be at that point so you don't resist anything. And I've watched people within 6 months to a year with lives like that reconnect with somebody from high school, and all of a sudden they're getting married. Their divorce is over. They're getting married. All of a sudden, people are reacting differently to them. They don't know why. This person was always mean to me. I walked in the room and they were offering me to go to lunch with them. What the hell happened? You can't explain it because it doesn't happen on that the physical, logical level. And what it really comes down to is if you cannot trust that there is a higher power, you will always be limited by what your human has available to it. Human is a temporary condition. It's a limiting condition. It's not the entirety of what we have. But while you're in this form, there are many things you will not be able to do. However, you're not disconnected. And if you open up and allow, you can be affected and you can be brought back into a more full state of coherence within your energy. And that's what it really is. So I say stuff like that, and it's like, I don't want to throw money down for that. You just told me you were going to do nothing. That's right. It's hard to explain to people that don't get, like, through experience that it's real, like that it can happen. So he does a lot of little, like, demonstrations where he'll have somebody hold out their hand, and he'll put his hands around them. And you can feel the sensations are always different. People have smells that are not there. but they smell a smell. So it's really important. You don't wear any perfume. You don't want to do anything that's going to affect a sense because you want it to be authentic. So no perfume, no music, because some people will hear music. No outside interference. Sometimes it feels like pressure. Sometimes it feels like a thud. Sometimes it feels like wind or static. There's so many sensations that can be there. And this is crazy, you guys. I got to tell you this because it still blows my mind. One time I was working on this woman who I was friends with, but I didn't realize that she had a membership at the clinic I worked at. So I'm doing her massage. And I didn't tell her like any of this stuff. She doesn't know anything. So she's on the table, she's face up, and I'm working on her neck, and her head. But she starts to talk to me. So Italian, once again. I started talking to her. Hands. All of a sudden she goes, "Oh my God, what was that?" I was like, "What do you mean, what was that? What was that? What did you see?" Because, you might have seen a lot of things. She goes, "You don't see that? There's like little beams of light coming out of your fingers." I'm like, "Oh my God, you saw that?"
Wow.
She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Did you?" And I was like, "Well, I see it all the time, but other people don't." She's like, "Well, what is that?" And I'm like, "Well, now we're going to have a discussion. Do you have a couple of hours?" This is not going to be a one-shot deal. But yeah, and she's also someone that saw people in my house, like non-physical beings in my house, which nobody ever saw either, except my husband once admitted, "Oh, I just saw it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, now you saw it." But she was sitting with me on my couch, and we're just talking, and these things happen to me all the time, so I don't say anything. And she's like, "What was that? What was that? Did you see that?" I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, she goes, "You just see it look like somebody walked right by us." And I was like, "Man, I'm going to need to have a lot of talks with you because you're way more capable and you have a lot of ability." And she was one of those people who came from a slightly religious background. She worked with the Mennonites.
Oh, wow.
So it's like she worked for them. She wasn't one of them, but that stuff is, the environment, you soak it in. So she was like holding herself back from some abilities that she had. She ended up being a trance medium.
Oh my God.
Of all things. And
That's incredible.
So like everything, as soon as I started allowing, and reconnective healing helped me with this too. Up until that point, I was still kind of like weighing and measuring and being human. And once I started realizing I didn't have to run everything through my human because, you don't run your household through your toddler, know?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I realized like, you're not giving up. You're not surrendering to a lesser. Once you open up, you're being taken care of. You're being shown things like, how can you say no to that? And I started to like, everything just started coming together. For that girl, when I was in Texas, this is when it happened. We were talking and she started to tell me, sometimes I feel like something's wanting to jump inside me. And you don't say that to normal people, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So she's like, I'm like, "Oh, okay. Yeah. And I know what you're saying. It doesn't happen to me, but I know somebody that happens to." I said, I used to go to this paranormal investigator group. It was like they met at one of the local centers and they used to have meetups. But there's a woman in there and she's a trance medium and her name's Christine. I'm like, I haven't seen her since the group disbanded, but I bet I can find her. Maybe I can get her info somewhere from the group. So then I'm like, well, let's go to Denny's. I don't need it, Denny's. Why was I even going to Denny's? We go to Denny's. As we get out of the car, Christine is walking up the sidewalk to go into the Denny's. And I'm like, you don't have to do, you just have to be. And that's what the reconnective healing that's where that really changed my entire life. Yes, it helped my back, but it did so much more for me.
That's super inspiring. Oh my God.
Awesome.
Oh my God, I know.
It really is.
I'm like, Christine, you don't know me. You met me like 4 times. I just got to tell you something. So this chick over here, I started doing this thing and she helped her. I couldn't have helped her with that. So
I heard somebody talking on, could be Facebook, YouTube the other day, and they were saying that when we get triggered by something that someone else does or says, that is not actually a memory. It is actually part of your nervous system that hasn't completed what happened when the original trauma first happened. So what I'm hearing is that the reconnective therapy can address that it's a lot physical as well as emotional.
Yes.
And mental.
Yes. a healing that happens on all levels. You don't get to decide what happens. Like sometimes somebody might come in because they specifically have an issue and another thing will get healed because the taller order is always what's addressed, I think, is what people have found. But if you find that you have a pain and it's tied to an emotion and you're trying to heal the pain in your body, the emotion will never be addressed.
Right.
So by virtue of the fact that you have an intention and that you're trying to direct it, you're limiting the scope of what's the real healing and the real cause. So if you look at it that way, it always comes back to allowing and trusting it. And I've never been sorry. I've never been like, well, I should have just done it myself. It's not like with people, like you trust your husband to like do something in the kitchen and you're like, yeah, I knew I shouldn't have let him do that. I should have just done it myself. It's not that way with this. It's the only thing I can say it's not that way with.
Now, the big thing about mediumship is to trust yourself, trust your soul, and allow yourself to be open.
Yes.
You're not going to lose your identity. You're going to remain the person that you are. You may go through the natural changes of a personality and what your belief systems are. Beliefs come and go. But to allow yourself to be and trust and not have any trepidation at all. And one of the biggest things is to get rid of your fear.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing people need to address is their fear of having some unknown thing, some unknown energy coming to them and not being afraid of it.
Yeah.
Because energy shows up in all kinds of different ways.
Yep.
Energy even has a smell to it if you're sensitive enough.
Interesting.
That happened to me last night, actually. I was watching a YouTube video on, oh gosh, what was it? It had to do with ETs because that's my thing, right? So they were talking about how Christianity, like Jesus and Mary Magdalene, has a lot to do with ET stuff. And I had never really ventured into that before. It was fascinating. It was an absolute fascinating interview. And as he's talking about this, I started feeling like I was going to pass out. I felt this energy just flowing through my body. And my first gut reaction is to get scared and shake it off. But I'm like, no, I'm feeling this for a reason. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let it flow through me and see what happens. And I literally felt like I was going to pass out. But I sat there and I just allowed it to do what it was going to do. And it just flowed and flowed and flowed and flowed. It was a really calming energy. I don't know what it meant exactly, but the feeling that I got from it was that it was confirming this knowing that I've always had in my mind. I was born and raised a Catholic, and I've always been attached to the Catholic Church, even though I call myself a recovering Catholic these days, but it was ingrained in me. And I even had a past life as a nun before. And I've always felt a really strong connection to the Catholic Church. Like every time I driving down the street and I see one, it's like I want to go in. And because of all of my ET stuff, I think that was telling me that what you're hearing is something you need to hear, because that's going to connect that piece that you've always felt in your soul. And it was really, really cool. Yeah. That
awesome.
really connected a piece of a puzzle for me. So that was really cool.
I got to ask you, have you ever seen the TV show Evil?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. No? Oh, you have to see. I'll find a clip if I can. There's a character in the show. She's a nun.
Oh, it's Andrea Martin. I love her.
She is awesome, right?
She is so cool.
Her.
And there's close to
demon.
Yeah. There's like all this stuff going on. She sees demons. And I mean, they blend a lot of stuff that we both, know growing up. They were like, oh, no, you don't do that. The priest does that, blah, 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 whatever. The nuns always knew better. And I have a really strong connection.
Yes.
There's a part at the end of the episode of one, it's either the last episode or the one right before it, where she's sitting in the church with the lead character who's a priest, and he's asking her hard questions that we all have. Why is this allowed? Why does this happen? Blah, blah, blah. And she says, and I believe she's way more in tune too as a person, because the way this came through, I believe it wasn't acting. She said, God allows the church to fail because the church is made up of, it's flawed. It's made up of men. So, one of the things we forget, just like what we're talking about here, we're human right now. We're looking through the eyes of a human right now.
Yeah.
We're
Limited.
So you have to stop putting so much pressure on your human to know everything. You have to remember you're a speck in a giant system being allowed to see just that tiny facet for now.
Yep.
And you're not meant to throw it away. You came from there to get into that perspective. So sit in it. Just sit in it.
Yeah.
And it's not that what they taught you was wrong. It's that they were sifting through their tiny little lens when they told you. So I know some of it's malicious because some people are just malicious people, but there's also that aspect that you have to remember. So I get what you're saying. And I think what you experienced was the other part of you that knows more than the human brain knows. And since you're allowing it, you're experiencing it in your body. It's cool.
Yeah. The past life when I was a nun, I was very psychic. I had these powerful psychic abilities when I was a nun. And that was something that I had to keep to myself because of the time. Right. So yeah, it was fascinating. So I know there's something very powerful there that I need to explore more.
Nicole.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do pearls come up a lot for you?
No.
Because the woman that you read in your her name, the Chinese woman whose name was Pearl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you learn reconnective healing from Dr. Pearl.
Pearl, yeah.
I know. I was thinking about that
Is
too.
there a Pearl connection?
Yeah.
No, and you know what's really funny? I'm going to tell you guys this. I wouldn't normally even disclose this, but at that time, the book I was reading, I didn't want to read, and it was a Doreen Virtue book, and I had never had a liking for her. I was something's wrong with her. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Something's wrong with her. And they're like, read her damn book. And I'm like, fine, I'll read her book. You don't have to believe everything she says, but read the book. And I'm like, all right. In the book, she was talking about her grandmother, Grandma Pearl. And that day,
there it is. Number 3, 3 times.
Was Grandma Pearl. And I'm like, they needed me to read this book so that the timing was right when this lady showed up. And I had the opportunity that they could go, hey, remember in your little Rolodex brain when you saw those words? Ask her if her grandmother's name is Pearl.
I love it.
You just got to let it. Like, the thing is so like I said it before, I grew up in a Catholic Italian household. When you're a girl in a Catholic Italian household, everyone's telling you what to do.
Yes.
And so you either go one of two ways with that. You either let them do it, and they generally do know better, so it's not really that painful in the end. Or you go in the opposite direction. And I had been rebelling for so long that I'm like, I'm not doing what you told me. No. What are you telling me? I had to go through that. I treated spirit like my mother for a little while.
Being a teenager.
Who do you think you are? Yeah. Who do you think I am?
You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me.
I brought you into this world. I can teach you out.
I love that.
And I'm like,
sounds even better in Italian.
tell the truth.
I can't tell you how many times I heard that when I was growing up. I come from a Hispanic family, so.
I come from both Italian and Hispanic.
My brother married a girl whose family's from Mexico, so now I have Mexican Italian niece and nephew. They're either going to be like complete tornadoes, or like I don't know how that fire is going to go.
I love it. I love it.
They'll be able to cook.
That's for sure. Good food on both sides. Trust me.
A taco pizza. That sounds yummy.
Ooh, that actually does sound good.
You could do it.
Both my grandmothers are spinning in their graves right now.
No. Yeah.
Do you use aromatherapy, essential oils in your massage and reconnective?
I did I'm actually not a massage therapist anymore because my license didn't transfer. So I gave it up, but I still do it for people that I know who, don't take money for and all that stuff. It's not a business.
Yeah.
But I started that when I was in Texas. That was like a hybrid between my little psychic friend group and my massage therapy stuff. I already was using a few oils on people, and it was helping me because I noticed that if I put a really high quality therapeutics like grade oil on someone while I was working on them, their muscles would actually help me. It would be like, oh, the muscle's responding faster. So if I was trying to get a knot out in your neck, I could get it out without too much pressure. It's a lot of like blood vessels and nerves in your neck. So it was like a tool for me. But then one night I was going to my little psychic friend group. That's a whole other side tangent. That was like, it was like having a league of, do you guys remember like the League of Doom? And then there was like the superheroes, like they had their little, it kind of reminded me of that. It was like we had our own little group of people and they all had their own little talents. And I walk into this lady's house and I'm walk by this table and I see this bottle. And I'm like, what is that? I picked it up and I looked at it and I was like, I don't know what this is. I'm like, but I need this. What is this? Can I buy this? And that's when I was starting to have like complete trust in my guidance. Come to find out later, the blend is a Young Living blend called White Angelica. It doesn't have Angelica in it, but the blend that's in there was specifically formulated by Gary Young as an oil to use to keep your aura protected for people who do healing work. They're going to sell you the oil and tell you it's a blend and tell you the marketing stuff they're allowed to say, but it was purposefully put together to protect people who do healing work so that their energy wasn't messed with too bad. Since I was doing massage, I was always in contact with people's energy, even if it was body work. And that's when I started to get into that. And I had to listen to my guidance on that one too, because they have blends that, you know, the whole FDA thing about how you're not supposed to say something does something. Like I can't tell you like, oh, mint, if you put mint on your whatever cut, it'll heal. Like I can't tell you that without getting sued somewhere. Some of the blends you have to guess by the names they gave them. And I remember there was one blend that was like kind of expensive. My eye kept going back to it. I'm like, I don't want that. Why do I need that? The blend was called Trauma Life. And I'm like, that sounds kind of like
sounds
dark,
intense,
right? They're like, yeah, but you need that oil. And I'm like, but I don't. But they're like, you do. Okay, fine. So I buy the oil. And then on my shelf came that magical moment. I had somebody on my table, and it was actually somebody who was supposed to be kind of more of a friend than a client. In my mind, I saw the label and I was, yeah, that's on the shelf. You need to use this on this person. And something changed in her when I couldn't tell you what it was. It's kind of like Reconnective Healing. I stepped into it. I put only a couple of drops because it was a little pungent and I didn't want her to ask me, what are you putting on me? And I was like, oh, it's Trauma Life. Like, what are you thinking of me? So I was like, do. But something changed in her after that. So I started to realize that it's not just mind, body. Energy is all those things. Your mind's made of energy. Your body's made of energy. They're just in different states. They connect and interconnect in different ways. And rather than like using my whole life to try to get the limited amount of information that science will be able to obtain, it's better for me to just yield to that place. And the purity of the oils that they have is the reason why I get it from them, because I had gotten oils from other places. And at one time I tried an oil because something was out of stock and I took it from another place and I was, this isn't doing anything. Like it was like an inert substance. And I'm like, why is it not doing anything? Isn't this that? And that's when I had to educate it myself about, I mean, is even anything we have that there's more than one version of the same? No. The way that Young Living they have their own farms and they have the distilleries set up on the farms. So there's no carting things from here to there, many people handling all that stuff. That's a big thing in the processing. But the way that it's distilled is intentionally to preserve the plant compounds. Because when you do perfumery, like if your desired outcome is, I want this to smell great, you're not concerned about anything else. So you do it fast and you do it with a lot of heat so what they're getting is maximizing scent, but it sacrifices the compounds. Well, what Gary Young was essentially trying to do was allow people to have plant medicine in their hands without calling it that, because, you know, the limitations that go with it, and marketing it as it's just an essential oil. But the thing is it has those compounds in it. And I remember thinking to myself, when I open this up, I feel like there's life force energy in here. But I didn't feel that in the other stuff. And I'm like, I got to go with what I know. And what I know is what they know. So I just kept going with it. Like today I'm using, this is a blend called Red Cedar Bliss. And nobody I know knows about this one or likes this one, but I like it. And I get a lot of it because I don't want it to run out. This has produced more progress during dream time when I diffuse it than any other oil that I've tried. You can get sleepy from some of them. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. But this one has brought about a lot of changes in that. So I use it a lot for that reason.
Yeah. I'd like to throw in a disclaimer at this point that we're not endorsing any particular company, nor are we being sponsored by any particular company.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just all personal information that Nicole is giving us.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
There's
cool.
a history of all this stuff. Like, you guys know, if you go through all these books that talk about herbal remedies and folk, whatever, medicine, things that people had before we had any kind of modernization of anything.
Yeah.
This is really funny. I used to work in a bank that had this little Romanian lady that worked with me. She used to have a real typewriter because she insisted on using a real typewriter. And I remember at the time, this is pre all of the stuff we've been talking about today. Not only was my lower back starting to tweak out, but it was dominoing up to my neck. So now I had this crick where, like, I couldn't put my arm out certain positions or it started to hurt. And she was watching me fidget. And I'm like, oh boy. For a little person, she had a lot of personality. So she saw me one day and she goes, come here. And literally this woman had to be 4 feet tall. She goes, oh, give me your arm. And so she starts pseudo chiropractic my arm.
Wow.
And I looked at her and I was like, she goes, does it feel better? And I was like, a little bit. She goes, what do you think we did before we had all these things? We didn't have all this medicine. We didn't have these chiropractors. We didn't have all this. You had to do. Okay. And then she started going on a tirade about her husband who had passed away that she took care of. The point is made. Thank you. It was another little cobblestone on that path that says, you don't have to ask everybody else their opinion. Sometimes you know things. And eventually you come across someone else who knows and they just reiterate it to you. And then you realize, like, I can trust these other things.
Wow.
But we've always had stuff available to us. The thing is, we're going to lose it if we don't get smart about it.
Yeah.
It's so important that we pay attention to our instincts and our intuition and follow that. It may not make sense, but it can guide us in the right place.
It has never steered me wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
It really hasn't. And as much as I kicked and fought and like, no, that doesn't make sense and I shouldn't do that, it's never been wrong.
Do you guys have any other questions for Nicole? We're out of time.
I think we need a part 2.
Yeah. And how can people get a hold of you, Nicole?
Yes.
Well, I actually don't have a professional practice right now because I don't have space for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have my website, which I need to get better about updating, which is confessionsofaspiritmessenger.com. You can find me under the same name on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. And I will put this disclaimer out there. A lot of people put everything out on their social media. I do not. So you might look and not be very impressed by some of the content or lack thereof. However, when you come to me, whatever we do, no one else is going to know about. What we talk about, what you want done or not done, is between you and I. So if you have the confidence enough to be able to say that you can trust me because based on what you've seen today, then you are welcome to hit me up and we can find a way to get you what you need. But I don't put out, I have all these services. I do all this. A little bit of that is there, but just so you know, when you go,
you're a very private and conscientious and ethical person.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel that too.
High praise. Yeah.
This has been fascinating.
And fun.
Yes. Fascinating and fun. I learned a lot today.
Will you come back?
Yeah. Will you come back?
You guys are fun. You like listening to my crazy stories.
Yeah. The funny thing is, they don't sound so crazy to us.
No.
No, not at all.
I'm sitting there going, yep, I remember that. Yep, that happened.
Yeah. All right, everyone.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah,
thank you,
Nicole. This has been great. It's really been awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you for being such an ethical practitioner.
Yes.
That is so rare to find these days. And I really appreciate that.
Maybe next time we can talk about the spiritual cesspool.
Oh, yeah.
Fun stuff. The tea. As a metaphysician.
As an ET experiencer.
The Game of Thrones, that's what it is. The list of Mother Dragons.
Mother Dragon.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. We love you. Please share. You can find us on any of the podcast platforms, especially Apple and Spotify, or you can go to Facebook and get our link to Buzzsprout, which is how we get this out to you, and YouTube. We'll be putting this video up on YouTube. So please follow us, share. We appreciate it. We appreciate you being part of this community. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. If this episode resonated with you, please follow, turn on notifications, and share it on your favorite social platforms. And tag us so we can grow this community together. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will see you next time.